Hello, I'm Robin. Welcome to Bookspin. I've recently picked up some lovely books over the past few weeks, so I thought it would be time to do another book haul. So let's get stuck in and take a look. Now, I've just had my birthday, so I did get a few books as gifts. So let's take a look at those first. And we'll start off with this book Stranger in a Strange Land by Robert Heinlein. I'm very pleased to have picked up this. This book has been on my radar for quite a long time. And this is a really nice edition. It's the Penguin Galaxy edition, hardback, with an introduction by Neil Gaiman and a lovely cover. And this book is it's a classic. It's got a very important place within the science fiction genre, and it's a cult classic of the 1960s. So it's something that I've been meaning to read for quite a long time. So very happy to pick this up. I've only read one Heinlein book before, and to be honest, I didn't really get on that well with it, and that was The Moon is a Harsh Mistress. But I do want to give him another chance, and this book has a special appeal to me. I want to see what all the fuss is about. So looking forward to reading that one. And another gift I got is another hardback of a classic, The Man in the High Castle by Philip K. Dick, which is a classic within the alternate history subgenre. I'm quite familiar with the story because I watched the Amazon TV series a few years ago, but I do want to read this book, and it's one of Dick's most famous books, so I think it's quite a good idea for me to read this one, and it's a nice edition, so that's a nice one. Now I've got a couple of modern SF books as gifts as well, including Venomous Lumpsucker by Ned Beaumont. This is not one I'd heard of, but I found out this actually won this year's Arthur C. Clarke Award. And I've had a look at the blurb, and it's got a lot of critical acclaim. So let's have a look at the blurb so we've got an idea of what this is about. The venomous lumpsucker is the most intelligent fish on the planet. Or maybe it was the most intelligent fish on the planet, because it might just have gone extinct. Nobody knows. And nobody really cares either, except for two people. Mining executive Mark Halyard has a prison cell waiting for him if that fish is gone for good. And biologist Karen Ressaint needs it for her own darker purposes. They don't trust each other an inch, but they're left with no choice but to team up in search of the lumpsucker. And as they journey across the strange landscapes of near-future Europe, a nature reserve full of toxic waste, a floating city on the Baltic Sea, the lethal hinterlands of a totalitarian state, they're drawn into a conspiracy far bigger than one ugly little fish. Sunday Times Book of the Year. That sounds interesting. So yeah, I think I'll probably enjoy that. And another modern SF book I got given as a gift is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. This book has received a lot of critical acclaim. I've seen a lot of people review it on BookTube, and everything I've heard about it is overwhelmingly positive. I've not heard anything bad about this book. So I think I'm sure I will enjoy this as well. Right. Okay, now the next book, this is an interesting one. This one was actually sent to me by the publisher for free. It was sent to me by Flame Tree Press, who previously sent me copies of Alan Stroud's Fractal Duology, right? And I talked about that in a previous haul. And they sent me another package, which I wasn't really expecting. I mean, they said that they would send me an anthology, but they didn't tell me what they were going to send me. So this was a surprise. It's this book. It's called Immigrant Sci-Fi Short Stories. Right? Very beautiful hardcover. And this is part of a range of anthologies that they do called Gothic Fantasy. You can see it's a Gothic Fantasy right here. And even though it says Gothic Fantasy, the anthologies in this range, they cover quite a few genres or subgenres within speculative fiction. So you've also got sci-fi and horror and mystery fiction, for example. So this is just one of the titles, one of the anthologies within that series. So obviously this particular one has immigration as a theme within science fiction. Beautiful book, as I say. There's a lot of content in here. Look, these are all the stories. And quite a small font to fit all that content in. Now, looking through the list of stories and authors, most of them I haven't heard of. They've got some classic writers and some modern writers. The ones that I've heard of are Frederick Brown, Zena Henderson, and Ken Liu. I don't think I know any of the others, but I think this book will be good for dipping into every now and then, and perhaps discovering some new authors that I might like. So I'm actually very pleased with this book. It's a beautiful book. So thank you very much to Flame Tree Press for sending me this. Right, now the next book is Semiosis by Sue Burke, and this was sent to me by John at Sci-Fi Scavenger. We did a bit of a book exchange, so I sent him a copy of Inverted World by Christopher Priest, because I was replacing that copy with another copy, right? So I sent him my old copy, which he requested, and he sent me, he showed me a list of his books that he would be willing to exchange it for, and I chose this one because I'd heard a few good things about it. It's another modern SF book. It's I think it's got a plant, an intelligent plant species, plant sentience as a theme. So thank you very much to John for sending me this, and I'll link John's channel down below in the description, which I can highly recommend, by the way, if you're not familiar with it. So, right, the next batch of books is all vintage paperbacks. I'm going to start off with the ones which I picked up online. Okay, so I've got 4 books here which I picked up through eBay and ABE Books and things like that. So, right, first up we've got Honeymoon in Hell by Frederick Brown. It's a short story collection. I read a Frederick Brown book earlier this year, and I really enjoyed his style of short storytelling. So I'm eager for more of that kind of thing. And it's got a kind of pulpy appeal to it. It says here, from the terrifying reaches of man's wildest imagination, stories diabolically calculated to lure you far beyond the brink of sanity. Which is quite a claim. In fact, I'm just going to read from the blurb on the back because it's quite outlandish. It says, "Do you dare to let your mind drift back to that point where reason stops and free-floating, rainbow-striped fantasy begins. We're not suggesting you do it, because sometimes it's better not to know what's back there. On the other hand, if you're on that kind of a kick, if you've got that bugging monkey on your back, you'll do better with a guide, someone who knows his way around hell and various other such places. That's Fred Brown. He's been up and down those aisles for some time now. Let Fred take you by the hand and conduct you on the special gilt-edged tour. Your guidebook is Honeymoon in Hell. They make it sound like it's some kind of drug or something. And this collection contains Arena, which is one of his most famous and celebrated stories. So, can't wait to read that. Okay, another kind of vintage pulpy title, The Flying Eyes by J. Hunter Holly. I love this cover. Look at that. A terrifying tale of horror in the skies. Okay, Philip Jose Farmer. I am gradually expanding my Philip Jose Farmer collection. He has some of the best cover art from like 60s, 70s, 80s. And when I saw this cover, I thought I have to pick this up. This is quite a crazy cover. Strange Relations. Now look at that. We've got some kind of weird sort of man-beast creature with a beard and female breasts, by the looks of it, with a slug on his back and some kind of creature hatching out of an egg being eaten by a serpent. So, strange relations indeed, I think. Anyway, it turns out that this is a collection of novelettes. And again, we've got quite a bold claim on the blurb on the back. It says, "Future shock. Philip Jose Farmer is one of the handful of authors who made science fiction grow up. Unlike so many other SF writers, he has never been afraid to explore the furthest limits of the bizarre, terrifying, and grotesque, the implications of man's contact with completely alien life forms in outer space. In this outstanding collection of brilliantly disturbing stories, man meets alien in a weird variety of ways. The results of these encounters will shock, startle, and astound you. They will also open your mind to a new awareness of the range of experience available to man in an infinite universe." So, Philip Jose Farmer, Strange Relations. Okay, right. Another kind of pulpy title, kind of horror, sci-fi horror, I think. Bats Out of Hell by Guy N. Smith. And with the bats came death. Look at that. So, as it says on the back here, Death Virus escapes from research center. Professor Brian Newman had accidentally created a deadly new virus. In a single glass cage in his laboratory, its first victims were slowly dying in mortal agony. For the sake of the world, the bats in that cage must never be released. But glass is all too easily broken. It's COVID-19. Sounds like. Ooh. Interesting. Right. Okay, so I've got some more vintage paperbacks here. Now, these ones I picked up in the wild. So, first up, now, I think it's, a few days ago, I visited a secondhand bookshop called Moss Books in Cheltenham, which is a great little shop. They've got a nice little vintage sci-fi area, and I picked up a couple of paperbacks from there. So I'll show you what I found. The Moon is Hell by John W. Campbell, First Human Colony on the Moon. And it turns out this book is actually 2 novels. It doesn't actually say that on the front, but looking on the back, The Moon is Hell and The Elder Gods. The Moon is Hell. This is a great writer's vision of the first men on the moon, not as the American space program made it happen, but as it might have been. And this was published originally in 1951. And The Elder Gods, the second novel in this volume, is a first-rate fantasy adventure by the same author, taken from his famous magazine Unknown, now a priceless collector's item. So that will be interesting. The other book I picked up is Edmund Cooper, Deadly Image. It was an anachronism, a 20th century man in a world of androids. There you go. And what I didn't realise at first when I picked this up is, well, firstly, this sticker, it says Andromeda Bookshop, signed by author. Now, Andromeda Bookshop is a bookshop which used to exist in Birmingham, but has now closed down. Signed by the author. Let's have a look inside. Apparently, this is his signature. This one's got quite an interesting premise. It says, by a freak of chance, he had survived to see an age in which working had become socially unacceptable. An age in which culture and the arts reigned supreme. An age of mannered ladies and gentlemen, perfectly waited on and cared for by androids, the man-like creations of their own genius. Not only was there no need to work anymore, man had completely freed himself from all the problems of living. In fact, he'd reached a point where he hardly knew how to live anymore. Sounds like my kind of place. Okay, so I picked up those 2 books, and then this one was actually given to me, but it was also picked up at a charity shop, second hand. Kings of Space by Captain W.E. Johns. From the author of Biggles comes a thrilling space adventure. So, another vintage one from my collection. And then, a couple of days ago, I went on a special trip to Astley Book Farm, which is a huge second-hand bookshop. Absolutely amazing place. Wonderful place to visit. You can easily just spend a whole day there and get lost among the bookshelves. So I picked up 5 books from there, which I think was quite restrained of me. I'm trying not to go too crazy with the book buying, because I'll never have time to read everything otherwise. But I did find a few books there which I'm very pleased to have picked up. So first up, we've got another Frederick Brown book here, The Mind Thing. Frederick Brown's terrifying novel of a being from another galaxy with an unthinkably horrible plan for Earth. Okay, so I'm building up quite a Frederick Brown collection now. This is, I think, my 4th book of his that I've picked up this year. And another Philip Joseph Harmer. The Other Log of Phileas Fogg. So I'm guessing this is some kind of unofficial sequel to Around the World in 80 Days. Let's see what it says. Who really was Phileas Fogg, whose origins were shrouded in mystery? Why was his life conducted like that of a robot, And why did all the clocks of London strike at 10 minutes to 9 when Fogg got off the train at the end of his journey? Here now is the intriguing story of what went on behind the scenes as two alien races contended for Earth mastery. Okay. And this one, One Against Time by Astrid Delmartier. I've never heard of this writer. A mind-twisting hunt through the jungles of infinity. This one stood out to me because the blurb sounds kind of intriguing. Harold Neiman was a loser. He was a plodding bank clerk whose past was weary and whose future was dull. Until the moment when his mind was activated by a warp in time and he became a super brain, a brilliant freak gifted with the power of 20 computers. Suddenly Harold's future wasn't dull anymore, it was deadly. There we go. Right. And now, I think, the next two books were, for me, I think, the finds which I'm most pleased with from Astley Book Farm. So, Spiderworld the Tower by Colin Wilson. Okay, and the sequel, Spiderworld the Delta. So, this book, I found out about this book from Matt on his channel Science Fiction Reads. I think he spoke quite highly of this book a while ago on one of his videos, and I made a mental note of it. So when I saw it out in the wild, I thought I have to buy this, and it's a very nice hardback edition here, and this with this lovely Chris Voss artwork, pretty good condition, at least this book. It's set in a kind of future world with giant spiders. That's about as much as I know. Spiderworld is Colin Wilson's brilliantly conceived and imagined saga of men enslaved and of one human who has literally the strength of mind to fight against ruthless genocidal forces to bring about the rebirth of his race. Lovely artwork, as I say. So I was really pleased to have found this. And the sequel, which is a paperback, it's a big paperback, Spiderworld the Delta, the stunning sequel to The Tower. Again, lovely artwork. So yeah, I'm looking forward to these books, and I did a bit of research on Google, and apparently there are 4 books in this series, so it's a tetralogy. So I had a look. There's the book 3, which is called The Magician, which is not too hard to get hold of, but there's also a 4th book, I forget what it's called now, which came out in 2003, which is really rare, and if you want to buy a copy online, you have to pay a ridiculous price for it. It's like £70-80 minimum. So, but now that I've got the first 2, I'd quite like to have the full set. But I should at least read these first and see that if I really enjoy them. So, those are all of those vintage books that I picked up. Now, I'm going to finish this off with a very special book. This is a Folio Society book. Right? So, last Christmas, I got a gift voucher for the Folio Society, and I bought one of their books, but I had some leftover credit on the voucher, and I found out that if you don't spend it, it expires after a year. So we're almost at the end. Well, we're approaching the end of this year. I thought I better spend it on something, right? I had been waiting throughout the year to see if any new releases would come out, that would appeal to me. But in the end, I decided I want to pick up 2001: A Space Odyssey by Arthur C. Clarke. So that's what I've gone for. And here is the box. I haven't opened it yet, so I'm going to open it now and take a look. Now, Folio Society, they always have these massive boxes with excessive packaging, so it's going to take me a little while to get through this. Let's take a look. All right, I've finally removed all of that packaging. Let's see what we've got. There's the receipt. A nice fancy bookmark. The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle, which is an excellent book. Let's see. So we've got a silver slipcase. There we go. This is the cover design. 2001: A Space Odyssey by Arthur C. Clarke. Let's have a look inside. There you go. Introduction by Michael Moorcock. Illustrations by Joe Wilson. Let's have a look at one of those illustrations. Lovely. There's another one. So yeah, this is a really nice edition. So this is one of those books I've been looking for in a while for now. 2001. I've never see it, never find secondhand copies. So I thought, okay, I'll just get this fancy folio edition. Use up my remaining credit, and I don't regret it. I think this is a lovely edition. Can't wait to read this, and perhaps it will help me to understand what was going on in the film. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.